Okay, great. Welcome to Group Dynamics. I want to start this morning out with just a couple questions. Sharon Henderson is here with us as well, and she'll put this in the chat. But I'd love to hear, what kind of groups are you currently involved in, or what kind of groups are you a member of? Um, let's see where kind of folks are coming from this morning before we dive in. And Sharon, as those come into the chat window, feel free to share a few out. What kind of groups are you involved in?
Okay, I'm going to just kind of throw out what's coming in.
That would be great,
Research
Sharon.
team and grant collaborations, volunteer fire department, 4-H, council, parenting boards, nonprofits, government agencies, Master Gardener, Community Foundation, few nonprofits there.
Okay. Great. All right. Thanks, Sharon. Broad array, which is exciting because as we all know, every group kind of has their own dynamics and every sector also have their own dynamics. Second question, why do you stay involved in these groups? Why do you keep showing up? What is it that keeps you engaged and coming back as a member of these groups? Yeah, and as things come in, Sharon, go ahead and share those out.
Okay, stay busy and make a difference. Some are my job, want to give back. A few, that's my job, they are my community. One is I believe I'm making a positive impact. Another, it's my job. Good one here, help me grow and learn. Community involvement, help me my own children, giving back. And it's
Great.
the way our work is structured.
Great.
Commitment to a group, doing something to contribute to the community. Love
Great.
my job and community. Wow, watching, wow, there I can't even keep up. Research is done most effectively in collaboration.
All right.
Wow.
Great. Yeah, please keep them coming. That's awesome. There's a lot of reasons we continue to show up. It's interesting. We just heard the broad array there as well. Some folks are like, I have to, it's my job. To others who are really there because they want to make a difference and an impact in their community, the lives of others, etc. And it sounds like everything in between. So today we're going to talk about group dynamics, and I wanted to kind of start the conversation with who you all are, where you're involved, and why you show up, because I think it's really important to step back as we work in members of groups and really think about what is it that makes groups what they are, right? The dynamics. So for today, I want you to think about group dynamics as really the behaviors, the processes, the norms for how a group of individuals work together. And that is this group dynamics. So today, we're going to talk about a model that comes from Bruce Tuckman. He was a psychologist in the 60s, and he came up with this, what I like is very simple and straightforward, stages of group development. And really, this came out of work in recognizing that all phases are necessary for groups to come together, to tackle problems, to find solutions, to grow, to work strategically, and to hopefully ultimately produce results. So today we're going to talk through each of these 4 stages, and I'm going to share with you some things that help you identify what stage you or your group is in. some feelings, emotions, characteristics, and then also give you a few strategies on how you can help a group that is in this phase move through it with the ultimate goal that you're working towards getting to a performing stage. Um, so as we go through this, I recognize there's a lot of knowledge in this webinar. So please continue to use the chat window. If you have ideas to add to mine, please do. This is by no means exhaustive, what I'm going to share today. So let's crowdsource a little from the room as well. So let's start with forming. So forming is the stage where folks are really just coming together, right? Everything is new. And they're really kind of trying to figure out, okay, who are we? How do we fit together? Why are we here? Right? Just these beginning stages. So some of the feelings and characteristics that really embody this phase is folks are a little nervous, right? They're uncertain. They're not entirely clear on what is going on and why they're coming together and where they're going. You also see a lot of hopefulness. You know, people are excited to come together and form a new group to work on something together. They're often polite, right? Folks are kind of on their best behavior, often in the forming stage, and they really stick to safe and easy topics. This group can be characterized by lacking clarity on roles. And so there can also be a lot of questioning going on. So really just like that beginning stages. So if you identify a group you're in or you're working with is in this stage, there's some things that you can do to help them move through it. So spending some time really around team building and getting to know each other, you know, put some time at the beginning of meetings, or if you have an agenda on the agenda, to really take some time to do some introductions. Some folks do icebreakers here. Spending some time to really get to know each other as individuals. Um, Also, really important time to discuss purpose and goals, right? Get clear on why are we here and where are we trying to go? And really, kind of in addition to that, and tied to that, is okay, what are the different roles that we're going to need? And what are the different roles of all of us in this group? I've worked with a lot of groups over the last 20 years. And I think one of the biggest challenges for groups, or not biggest, maybe most consistent challenges, is there's a lack of clarity around roles and responsibilities. So this forming stage is a real opportunity to do some work around understanding roles. I love to set group norms here. This is also sometimes called group agreements or ground rules. I tend to shy away using the word rules for adults. I know there's some youth educators on today that might have thoughts on whether that is or is not appropriate for youth. But these are really kind of just your standard operating procedures. How are we going to work together and treat each other? If you do that work at the beginning before you get into the harder parts of the process, it can be really beneficial to help you navigate that. So it also might be the point for you, whether you are formally like the chair, the leader of the group, or not, you can kind of step in and provide some guidance and some facilitation in taking the lead to kind of help folks discuss some of these things. Anything in the chat to add there, a thing or two, Sharon? Okay. Okay, so forming, you've come together, you've started to kind of figure out who you all are and how you're all going to work together. And then you move into the storming phase. Now, I often have folks who really don't like this phase because it's hard. And I want to help you think about it today in a way that it's a really necessary phase. If you think of all these phases as setting a foundation for a group to build upon to move towards performing, that can help folks kind of be more okay in recognizing and moving through this stage. So this is where a lot of kind of questioning, who are we? How do we work together? Do we actually fit together or not? So some things that start to come up in this phase is there's often some confusion and there's questioning of roles. Different viewpoints, right? Different opinions start to emerge on different sides of an issue or how to move forward. And this can lead to some heightened emotions. You see folks be somewhat resistant, maybe a little defensive. So obviously, you can see all this leading to conflict tends to arise in this phase. And there can be kind of some power struggles. It might be over roles, it might be over purpose, it might be how to do the work together, but you might see two, three, or four different sides or groups of people kind of trying to, maybe take control or really drive the agenda of how the group is working together. And it also can be frustrating because all this work is being done around um, kind of the cohesiveness of the group or lack of it. And so you often don't really get a whole lot done in this phase. The energies are diverted elsewhere. So this can be frustrating for some folks. Um, and some strategies to help a group move through it. My favorite, and this really kind of ties to who I am and my personality, is I like to just name it, right? So recognize, oh, this is storming, and um, naming it for the group and framing it in a way that says, this is really necessary because we're doing important work here that's really figuring out who we are and how we're going to work together. So you might want to be teaching and or practicing some conflict management strategies. Our leadership topic in 2 weeks is conflict. So show up for that. We'll share some good things with you there. And it might be a good time to actually facilitate some discussions, whether that's you yourself or you're bringing someone else in. Um, kind of getting someone who's maybe not tied to any specific outcome to help folks have these important discussions. And if you've created your group norms, this is a really, really good place to look back at those and bring those forward as a way to help you navigate it. One last thing I like to do here that can help kind of like uh, uh, lower the emotions is taking a pause and reorienting to the purpose. Simply asking folks the question, okay, let's pause here. I realize folks are getting, I'm sensing or I'm hearing a lot of frustration or whatever emotion you're hearing. Let's pause and remember, why are we here? So reorienting folks to that purpose can be helpful. Okay, so we've made it through the storming phase and you move into norming. Norming is where there's a lot of understanding and acceptance of each other and how you're all going to kind of fit together. And you really start to see a desire to continue on and work together. So some characteristics here is you get a lot of clarity around purpose, goals, and roles. Um, you've done that hard work in the storming phase to really get some clarity around these things. And when you have that, you start to have a high levels of commitment, confidence, right? People want to be there. They're excited to show up. And you really do some deepening of trust and relationship building. This leads to group cohesion, and you've moved past some of these other kind of challenging steps to work through. So there's the ability to do some problem solving. Um, so strategies to move folks through this. And I see some questions coming in. We'll get to those here in just a second. Um, developing decision-making process. If y'all haven't done that yet, norming is a great phase to do this. Okay, you're going to start making some decisions, and maybe you've already have, but get really clear on what is the decision-making process. Is it using some sort of voting, or you're going to use some sort of consensus? and a great opportunity to make sure all members are heard and have an opportunity to participate. This is a stage where you can recognize, okay, what are all the strengths of our group? And make sure you're aligning folks' strengths with opportunities to have a role and to really participate. Having a lot of encouragement and a lot of enthusiasm is great. And also, this is a phase where you've built some trust so you can start testing some new ideas and maybe really encouraging some creativity. So I'm seeing a question about developing a mission statement could be helpful at that stage. Um, and that was the storming phase. And this is what, Uta, thanks for that question. What I think is really important here is I'm giving you some very generalized kind of uh, characteristics and strategies in each phase. This isn't, this model is really fluid, right? Because groups are really dynamic and different. So this isn't set in stone that you can only do certain things in each stage. You also have to just like feel out the stage. It might make sense to do some work around vision and goals and storming. That might be really helpful in moving the group towards being clear on that purpose. It might not work, and that's fine, and it's something you can pick up in a further stage, or you might not be entirely successful. Um, oh, I love that too. The intensity and mood of storming is set by the leader or the leaders set by the leader or leaders of the group. If you joined us for Gracious Space about a month ago, um, Pat Hughes talked about spirit and how spirit can spread, right? So I appreciate that comment, Michael. I think it's really important if you are in a leadership role that you have the ability, recognizing you have the ability to really set that tone and that spirit of how the group works together. Okay, we'll circle back on this other question, Kim's question here in a minute. Let's continue through. Okay, last stage, right? This is the stage everyone is aspiring to. Performing is where you really start to have success, right? You're achieving results, the purpose that you came together. So what you can see happen here is there's really tight bonds between group members or the group as a whole emerge. There's a lot of satisfaction. You're achieving goals, you're being successful, people are having fun. It feels really good to be successful and achieve things. I love seeing shared leadership in this stage. If a group has done really good work to recognize the strengths of all their members, they have this really fluid way of stepping in and out of leadership role and sharing that across the group, so it doesn't rely on one person to do everything. They really have this feeling of they're in it together. With a higher level of trust, group members start to challenge ideas. This is a really good indicator of a healthy group when someone could put forth another idea and it can be challenged by someone, and that doesn't shut the first person down. They recognize that it's not necessarily a personal attack, it's just really trying to improve the work in the process. And then members of the group really start to hone and develop new skills. Uh, they've done a lot of work together, and so they're getting just better at what they do, and they're learning new things, and it can be pretty empowering. And some strategies here to maintain this performance. This might be a good point if you haven't already done it, to develop some plans. Maybe you want to get really clear on an action plan. Maybe it's actually a strategic plan. I think the ability to be adaptable and maintain flexibility is really important here, because if you're too rigid, that can actually start to pull folks out of this phase. Thinking about performance, right? You set some goals and you are working towards achieving those. Maybe it's time to start thinking about getting some feedback and analyzing your progress. Do you have some specific metrics that you want to start looking at? And some more sophisticated groups might actually be maturing in a way that they want to say, hey, let's actually get on paper a vision or a mission statement. That might have happened in an earlier stage, for sure. But if it hasn't, that often kind of gets folks get to that in this stage, and they're like, they really have a clear idea of who they are and how they're working together, and it might be time to put that on paper. The last thing is really celebrate successes. Working on groups are really hard. If you're in a group that is not taking time periodically to celebrate the work you've done, and there's any number of ways you can do that, it's a real missed opportunity. That's what that can help keep people engaged and really take the pause to see how far you've actually come, because it's a lot of work to get folks to this phase. Okay, so just a couple minutes here. Oh, hold on. So, real simple advice and guidance that I would give you on how to use this model. Step back, identify what stage your group is in. And is the group stuck or not moving forward? Right? Sometimes folks are in a stage, as long as they're like moving through it, great. But if they're stuck, that's really something important to think about. Where, why, you're really trying to understand this group. And then you can identify strategies based on that, what stage you're in, and whether they're actually stuck or not, that will help them move through it. And then I would leave this with a lot of, it takes a lot of trial and error in my experience. There's no easy answer to working in groups and to in group dynamics. And if there was, the world would probably be a different place. So I think recognizing that you might come up with an idea and go try it and it might not work. And that's okay. That's part of the process that you need to continue to um, kind of figure out new ideas that might help that group move through, with the ultimate goal of you're trying to move towards performing. So, Sharon, if you can, well, here, I'll just jump and then I can jump out of sharing here. I want to jump to questions next. Just a quick heads up, our next topic is the power of storytelling next week with Erica Malo. So we can hope you join us for that, really thinking about how can you use storytelling to move your group or your organization or your work forward. So I'm going to stop sharing. We have a few minutes for questions. I'm going to try to stop sharing. Hold on.
You're good here. Looks
Great.
So do you want to answer Kim's question? What suggestions do you have when you are part of a group but not the leader of the group and the forming step was skipped?
Oh, Kim, such a good question. I think one thing to recognize about this is it's not always this nice kind of linear circular process. Groups can kind of be maybe get to norming, and maybe 4 new members join and you have to go back, and maybe it goes directly to storming. But I think attending to thinking about whether you actually go back to the phase or not, Kim, I think maybe recognizing some of the strategies of that phase and bringing it into wherever the group is at. So I really think that kind of getting to know each other personally and relationship building that is done in that forming stage is foundational to every group. I've had these conversations for years and years with folks, and I've seen it shift, over the last handful of years, which is nice. I think groups used to kind of poo-poo that kind of work as like, oh, soft, or oh, are we just here to sing Kumbaya? But there's a lot of research and I think proof that establishing connections and knowing each other as humans, as individuals, is really important as a foundation for building trust. So I might go look, and there's a lot of information out there on this. If you want to Google it or email me, I'm happy to share the slides or some other resources if you'd like to go deeper. Go out there and find some things that are in the forming stage and start trying them, right? See if you can, like, hey, let's all go out for coffee or maybe for a beverage after our meeting. That can be pretty powerful. Just, an hour spent over a beverage or a meal can do a lot of work that can propel a group forward. Okay, so
Okay. I do
Uta,
have a,
oh,
oh, did you get that one? Okay.
yeah, I
From
can see
Uda.
the chat
Okay.
now. Thanks, Sharon. Another question. In my experience, there's another phase of group dynamics that I would call fizzle out. Might be the result of failing to recognize and to respond to some or all the four group stages. Right. Um, yeah, there's a reason why some groups don't continue to work together. I think removing judgment from this is really important too, to be like, oh, they failed. Instead of saying that, you could be like, oh, the parts and pieces were not in place for this group to succeed. I think it's okay for the fizzle out, or in some cases, I've heard folks call it the big fade, right? When they just kind of stop sending out information and no one's clamoring to be like, when's our next meeting? I think that can be a good indicator of maybe there's really not enough there. Um, you know, all sorts of things. It could be purpose, it could be opportunity, it could be human power to make the group continue to move forward. Um, yeah, I hope that that was helpful in answering that. Any other questions or thoughts? And I guess I would just leave you again. This is one framework for helping you think about it. I'm not aware of any groups who have been like, okay, we're forming. Let's go through our forming stage and then we'll all like decide when we're moving into storming. So I've never heard anyone use it that formally. I'm not saying you couldn't, but it's really a way to think about where you're at, where are you trying to get, what might you be able to do, whether you are formally the leader, um, or you are just kind of a member of the group, to move folks through. So using it as a framework to think about your group. Oh, great. We have a couple minutes. One more question here. What strategies can help people get back on track when negative motion is over? Motion is taking over. Ooh, Andrea, that is such a good question. This is, I feel like this would be like a half an hour brainstorm. I think the context of the group is really important in understanding negative motion. So taking a step back and really trying to understand what's going on, who are the players, um, and then developing strategies out of that. So I don't think, unfortunately, there's any easy answer um, for that. But what I do like to encourage folks to do is find someone maybe within the group or out to kind of step back and talk through that. Um, Sometimes negative motion can just take over the whole group, and you as an individual have it always have, well, if it's work related, that's different. I know some of you are in groups because it's your job. But if you're showing up as a volunteer, you always have the ability to say, this is no longer serving me and my purposes and why I'm showing up. So, again, without judgment, I think there's a time and a place where it's appropriate for folks to step away from a group or from the work. So, great questions. This is a topic I am pretty passionate about. MSU Extension is a resource to work with folks across the state. So, you are welcome at any time to give me a shout. If you'd like a copy of the slides from today or any resources, please shoot me an email. I just put that in the chat. Um, I appreciate your time this morning, and we look forward to seeing you next week to dive into storytelling. Have a great day. Thank you.